DBD is often seen as pretty tame when it comes to its horror elements, so today I wanted to look into some of the scariest, creepiest, and most disturbing parts of the game. Hey everyone, and let's get into it. The game's newest killer, the Unknown, is unique in the way that no one knows what its origin is. Even the Dredge, the massive flesh and fog, we have some idea of what the creature is and what its goals are, where it came from. In the case of Unknown, we do not know. It could be a creature from folklore, an alien, or it could be something else entirely like a slasher. This being has no definable origin. This is also what makes it so scary. By simply trying to think of what it is, appears to be the trigger for being hunted by it. A terrifying and disturbing concept where imagining it to begin with is what causes it to hunt you, and further what causes it to adapt to what you believe it to be. Ghostface is presented as sadistic in his lore, and his spree throughout Roseville is said to have terrorized the town. However, it's not overly clear from the lore alone just how many people he did actually kill. In this image we can see tens of articles across the walls, all presumably of the deaths he caused. This is quite substantial for a small town, and definitely shows just how much of a horror he would have been to them. To make this even worse, we find out from his add-ons that he had an address book full of victims' addresses. A book, not a page or something, but a book full of addresses. The opened page shows about 6 addresses, but these are also in the center of the book itself, suggesting this number is substantially higher. Further, knowing Roseville was just the last of his locations, we can assume the number is just as high on his travels, stated to be from Utah to Pennsylvania. Deathslinger is a character that is known for being an expert bounty hunter in the lore. However, much of what we see on face value that is already pretty messed up goes deeper when looking at his add-ons. He has multiple add-ons dedicated to ways in which he makes his spear gun deadlier. He would twist thorns into his spear, making it hard to escape. He would do this to a greater extent with barbed wire too. We also have the poison oak, which would lead to an evenly horrid effect. Deathslinger has sympathetic parts to his backstory, but this is definitely not one of them. Dredge is a creature that acts very similar to that of the Entity, and is considered by some to even be a smaller version of it. Within the Dredge we can see a whole realm of sorts. When Maurice was consumed by the Dredge upon its arrival to the realm, it seems Maurice lived inside for a substantial amount of time, before he was saved by a character from the lore. Despite Dredge's small outer appearance, within it is a vast realm filled with lots of torment and suffering, similar to that of the Entity's own realm. Whilst Dredge does look disturbing on the outside, what's within is far worse. This makes Dredge Mori all the more terrifying. As a survivor is pulled from one terrible realm, they fall straight back into another, a realm within a realm. We can assume this is the case for characters like Pinhead too, who straight up teleports the survivors out of the realm and into his own. When it comes to the realm itself, the realm is far bigger than what we see in game. The realm of the Entity may already seem very large with its many realms and areas, and even noted additional realms that some killers interact with, such as the spirit world, the ethereal plane, and more. However, it very much seems like we've only just scraped the surface of just how large the Entity's realm is. Remember from the Dredge before that it was extremely large inside despite appearing small. From what we know about the Entity and the current realm, we could reasonably scale it up in a similar way, resulting in the fact that we probably see less than 1% of the actual Entity's realm in game, with most of it being inaccessible and shrouded in fog. We see brief moments in the lore where characters attempt to explore, but most are met with fog, or sometimes monsters within the fog that seem separate from the killers. We can view it almost like the trials are simply the known realm, but there is in reality a far more expansive universe almost that is part of the Entity, and is completely inaccessible, likely containing even more horrors. It's possible even that what we do see is just one method the Entity has of feeding, and it likely has many other areas where it feeds in different ways, maybe even on things aside emotion. Singularity's organic body is made up of the parts of the members of the Dvarka crew. The bodies we can find strewn across Dvarka are all from his massacre, and were in some way incorporated into him before Gabriel blew him up. These features are especially prominent in his additional outfits, where we can see more defined cracked masks and versions of the Dvarka crew's outfits within. Some voice lines in game even reference Singularity's intent to incorporate the survivors into being a part of it too, a scary thought, and one which might make you somewhat grateful for the Entity's regulations of the trials. If the Entity wasn't there, the Singularity would probably be scrapping the survivors for parts and incorporating them into himself. A pretty terrifying concept. The blood point offerings are made from bird bones. This is something we can see see when looking at the individual category offerings on the killer side. Wreaths are said to be made up of varying types of wood, but the primary element being a bird of some kind, with each referring to a different bird relevant to the category. It sort of poses the idea that the characters have to hunt the birds down in the realm in order to then offer them to the entity, creating a wreath of guts, feathers, sticks, and various other gross parts, all to please the entity. Xenomorph's clone skin is a combination of human and xenomorph genetics, which is what results in its very disordered appearance and many disturbing features. We can see the base structure of the xenomorph, but ultimately the skin and bones of a human throughout the skin, leading to a disturbing combination of the two. Whilst this did happen out of the realm, it's also not uncommon for the entity to do this within the realm. Hag's Toxic Roots outfit introduces something very interesting, with it featuring an appearance that makes her seem as if she has been infested by the planet of Dvarka, with it suggested to be down to the foreign environment containing many non-human organisms. It for one shows that the entity is stopping this from happening, but further proves at any time it could easily expose all the survivors to this type of infection, causing the planet's growth to spawn across their body. This could also be a reason why clones were sent to Dvarka instead of regular humans, as they can likely have genetic alterations that won't react negatively to the environment. This happens in a different way too with the Twisted Demogorgon outfit, which describes Demo's physical change to be down to the new environment of the realm, suggesting the realm too has its own possible effects and organisms that could alter those inside it. In Demo's case, a hard outer shell forms, likely a result of the fog. The entity knows exactly when and where you'll be taken, and traverses not only time but also space. This is something that was largely confirmed with Jonah's lore, and is something that his lore does very well. On his 16th birthday, Jonah Vasquez receives a string of numbers from a mysterious package. He attempts to decode them, but he ultimately fails, with it leading him to live his life and briefly forget them. In a moment of revelation, however, he follows the numbers as coordinates, and upon arrival at the coordinates, deciphers that they depict his birthday and the current day and location, to which he is then taken. A creepy situation where the entity lays out exactly what will happen decades before it happens, showing its manipulative abilities, but also its terrifying ability to traverse space, but also time. The Withered Isle is possibly DBD's most disturbing realm, being home to the two killers of the Dredge and the Unknown. These two characters both have vague origins, and are probably the two most terrifying characters out of the entire roster. The Garden of Joy section of the realm depicts the location of where a cult once existed, a group forced to pent up negative emotion until it all spilled out and summoned the Dredge, which then consumed them all under the guise of darkness. In the realm you can hear Dredge's victims not only in Nightfall, but also in the Garden of Joy's main house, where everything is creepily tilted upside down. The newest section to this realm, Greenville Square, depicts the location where survivors Michaela Reed and Sable Ward both grew up. It's a place affected by the unknown, but additionally a dark fog, which could honestly be the Dredge or even the entity. It's theorized within Sable's lore that this place is so wrought with darkness because it sits atop a fracture, being an overlap between worlds, in this case the realm of the entity and the real world. This being the reason for the entity's greater presence and aggression within Michaela's lore, and the high frequency of supernatural events occurring. The location too where both Michaela and Sable would find their way into the entity's realm. Truly the worst place to grow up, maybe in the entire world. It's highly likely that the entity distorts the killer's vision. The entity is known to be very manipulative, and one way in which it manipulates the characters is by distorting what they actually see. This is done primarily with characters that would otherwise not obey it, and require additional convincing, such as Spirit. This is more of a theory, sure, but it does have a definite factual basis too. The idea that the killers aren't even entirely aware of who they are attacking, and believe it to be someone else entirely, does explain some of the character's clear anger. For someone like Spirit, it's likely she's seeing the survivors as her father, or potentially other members of the Yamaoka family. Some killers have very creepy backstories for their weapons. Unknown's weapon seemingly comes from one of his victims, and is stated to be lightly used, probably from when the victim fought back but ultimately failed. Dredge's weapon is a mass of twisted parts, many of which seem to be human hands, giving a good idea of the number of people twisted into Dredge's form. Singularity's weapon in a similar way has parts of the Dvarka crew intertwined with the metal of the blade. This extends into the character's outfits too. Trapper's outfit and design is based originally on a set he put together from the skeletal remains of the Macmillan workers from the mine. Huntress has a number of outfits that depict her many instances of violence, with multiple containing various objects she stole and looted after attacking attacking people. There are many more examples of this, but these are some of the creepier ones, I would say. Carl the Cashier is a recurring character in DBD lore who can never quite catch a break and is always getting killed. This was seen initially in the Ghostface's lore. We see him enter a store, purchase some knives and tape, and then end Carl. In a charm, we further find out that Carl was only at work that day because his co-worker was sick. What's so odd about Carl though is that he not only dies in Ghostface's lore, but also in Legion's tome lore. He appears again, this time as a store worker, and is subsequently killed by the Legion too. This could be down to it being a memory in Legion's case, and so Carl is simply filling in a blank in their memory, or it could be that Carl died in two separate universes in two events that both resulted in a character coming to the realm, which would be pretty unlucky, I would say. Either way, poor Carl. There's a charm named Mr. Puddle's Merch, which suggests that the clown was not only going around dressed as a large purple elephant, but he was also selling merchandise too. Due to the nature of the character of Mr. Puddles too, it's quite disturbing to consider the possibilities of who his targets were when wearing this outfit, that he was trusted despite his clear dodginess to the point where people were even buying merchandise surrounding his alter ego character. He clearly did this in multiple ways too with other animal characters like his chicken costume. This is a really unsettling picture and reveals the true horror of Clown. Multiple survivors chose to come to the realm and want to be there. This is the case for a few characters and for a variety of reasons. Ultimately, it's just a bit horrifying that multiple people would choose to come to a place like the Entity's realm, knowingly and in some cases even seeming to enjoy being there. Sable is the most clear example of this, choosing to continue down a dark stairwell and ending up in the realm despite having the choice to go back. Her intrigue to find Michaela and the realm both compelling her. Feng is another character who came to the realm after drinking too much and awakes to what she views as a new challenge for her to face down after her spiraling esports career. Elodie finally is a character who searched for the realm her whole life after the Entity took her parents when she was young. All of these characters have their reasons, but are ultimately committed to the realm and wanting to be there, which is partly confusing but also quite a disturbing concept considering what the realm is. In a case for someone like Sable, for example, having interest in these kinds of topics is one thing, but then actually wanting to live inside them is kind of a whole other thing. We know of many missing characters but have no idea what happened to them. Throughout the lore, there are multiple times when a character of some kind disappears and seems to be taken into the realm by the Entity. However, in many cases we have no idea what their fate was. Michaela's roommate and friend, known by both Michaela and Sable, was taken, is one of these missing characters, and was taken shortly after Michaela had an encounter with the Entity. Elodie and Felix's parents are also victims of this kind of disappearance, defending Elodie and Felix before mysteriously disappearing, presumably into the realm. I did a whole video covering these mysterious missing characters that you can check out below, but essentially it comes down to people the Entity took, but people we can't see in the realm, and so well, what happened to them? The totems are quite likely the remnants of survivors who were left behind or died within a trial, or possibly more specifically at the direct hand of a killer. When a Mori is used, the survivor does not disappear from the trial, unlike when they are taken by the Entity on a hook. This one is sort of a theory, but equally seems pretty factual too. The idea is that due to there being 3 skulls remaining on any given totem pile, that these are 3 survivors who failed to get away, with just 1 escaping. The lack of anything aside the bones may be confusing, but then it's worth considering that this could be down to certain add-ons like the survivor pudding, possibly explaining where the rest of them could have gone. Furthering this idea, the power that totems bring could very well be from the remaining emotion within the survivor's bones, powering the magic of the hex or boon, with these magic types appearing very closely tied to that of the Entity's own magic, which is powered by emotion. Many of the killers will look back at the home screen, suggesting they are aware of your presence. This one is sort of confusing, but also quite a disturbing concept, especially because DBD takes place within a multiverse. It poses the question of if we are part of the world of DBD2 without even knowing it. Characters like Trickster look back and will wink towards you. Other characters like Sadako will actively jump scare you, almost as if to try and gain emotion from the player themselves. The most disturbing element, however, is simply their awareness that they are being viewed by us, or possibly the Entity, looking back to scare, seek approval, or simply view that you are there at all. A creepy third wall break, especially when it first happens. The entity can manifest things from the fog, but also people's memories. This idea is that many of the characters in the realm, but also things like maps, are manifest entirely from memories. This is the reason for the odd appearance of some maps, and likely in the case of some cosmetic characters, why they're a mash between the memory of what they actually are and the killer they are placed onto. The existence of folklore and mythological characters in the realm, but also characters from shows like Attack on Titan, are probably a result of these things being embedded in a character's mind. The entity then reaches in and pulls it out. A pretty disturbing thing, that this oversized spider can just reach into your memory and pull out what it wants, even including actual people. It's likely the same method by which perks are decided, add-ons for killers, and more. Well, that's gonna do it. Let me know your thoughts and any other creepy things you might have seen in game down below. Thanks, and goodbye.